A number of years ago, I was sitting with my two girls on the couch in our living room, reading to them the story of Noah. My youngest daughter had just received a children's Bible, and I was reading the story to them, and in the middle of the story, my oldest daughter stopped and said, "Hey, Dad, why doesn't Noah talk to us the same way? Why doesn't God talk to us the same way God talks to Noah?" I was stumped. And I thought, God does speak to us, I told her. God does act all the time in our lives. We just have to learn to listen. And my youngest got off the couch, got on her knees, put her head down, then stood up, got back on the couch and said, "I just listened. I didn't hear anything." You see, what they didn't realize was that God speaks and acts not like a creature, not the way we do, but the way the Creator does, in a unique and radically different way. And I thought about that story because, my daughter's question betrays a desire to hear God speak. And I suspect that many people find that God to them is distant and silent like a faraway planet. And underneath the crazy busyness of our lives, there seems to be a fear of silence and solitude, because our lives deep down appear to be like a vast, empty desert in which we keep searching for the meaning we cannot find. You see, today I think we need a new image that expresses God's life and activity in new, fresh ways. And in Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he writes out a prayer that he says for us. And I think that if you pay attention to this prayer from chapter 3 of Ephesians, you'll start to see that Paul has this extraordinary image of the life and activity of God that I think can really help us today. Paul says, "I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named. And I pray that he grant you, in accord with the abundance of his glory, strength with power through his Spirit in your inner self, and that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, rooted in love, grounded in love, may have the strength to comprehend with all the holy ones what is the breadth and length and height and depth, to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God." It's such an extraordinary prayer, filled with all these superlatives, as if God's activity forces Paul to use language and stretch language beyond its own capacity. Well, I want you to think about this prayer and what it says about God and God's activity in our lives. You see, Paul imagines this dynamic, abundant life and beauty of God present in all things as the source of everything. And out of the abundance of God's life, he sends to us the Holy Spirit and Christ. And out of the abundance of divine life, God sends us power and strength through the Holy Spirit. And out of the swirling dynamic of God's abundant life, Christ comes to dwell in our hearts, in the heart of this parish and in each of our hearts. And the Spirit comes to strengthen us so that we can try and comprehend the incomprehensible love of Christ that comes from God. This is a life of overflowing divine abundance. And Paul prays that we are rooted in the love of God and filled with the life of God. What an extraordinary image. This is no silent, distant, stingy God that Paul has in mind. No, this is the living God, the inexhaustible, dynamic abundance of divine life and love that is in all things and present to all things. Now let me give you an image to help you with this. Scientists today tell us that we live and move within a gravitational field. They also say that we live and move within an electromagnetic field. And these fields, the gravitational field and the electromagnetic fields, these fields are invisible to us, but they are present everywhere and extend everywhere, not just on the planet, but throughout the entire universe. You know, it's only when you walk uphill that you notice you're in a gravitational field. Or try and get on a bar and hang from the bar, and you will feel that gravitational field pulling you down. Well, you see, Paul's prayer seems to be describing the dynamic presence of God as this divine field that is in all things. A divine field that is this dynamic life that we are walking through and is present to us all the time. You see, we are immersed, constantly immersed in this field of divine life and love. We are called to respond to this. We are immersed in this infinitely personal field of love that reaches out to us and draws us in, offering us that very life. So just imagine if you started to live from an awareness of the presence of this divine field. Imagine if you started to live from the abundance and generosity of this field of divine love. Imagine you would be filled with the fullness of God. Our identities would change. We would feel surrounded by and filled with God's life. And let me tell you, I think today, the future of the church and the world depends on us saying a yes, yes, yes to Paul's prayer.